everybody. It's Mom to Wife 1, and we have finally made it to episode 4, season 4 of Bridgerton. So, this will conclude part 1 of season 4. Second part drops February 25th, 26th, somewhere around there. And I'll be back to do a recap of those videos as well. But if you're like, girl, what happened the first 3 episodes? I missed it. The videos are on my YouTube page. Pause this video, open a brand new browser window, go back to YouTube and look at those first 3 videos and then come back so you can get the whole story, right? So I took notes like I always do, a page full of notes, mind you, because I want to make sure I don't forget things. So one thing I liked is that Gregory came back. He had been in Eton, which I guess is like a boarding school, I guess, or a finishing school. I don't think it's boarding school. He goes away, comes back. He has the slightest little bit of shadow here. And there's a really cute scene where he insists that he needs his first shave. So he's getting shaved, and Colin and Benedict are right there, and they're just laughing at him because they're like, there's literally nothing there. And it basically turns into the shaving cream fight. And it's really sweet because it's the first time in a long time that we've seen the brothers kind of joking together and having fun together. Obviously, the only one missing is Anthony. But I thought it was just a really, really sweet scene and just kind of cute. But it was a good example of how different Sophie and Benedict's worlds are because while you have that scene that's really cute, when Sophie walks by that same room after the boys have gone, you see a maid who is cleaning up all the shaving cream. And, obviously, if you're a hoity toity and your life has been like this your entire life, you're not thinking about the consequences. You're not thinking about, oh, someone has to clean this up later. You're like, oh, I grew up with service. This is just what it is. I can kind of do whatever I want. And I know when I come back to this room later, the room will be completely spotless. But they're not thinking about who cleaned the room. They're not thinking about the mess they're making. They don't have to think about that. Sophie has to think about that. So again, I think that was there intentionally for us to see that, oh, their lives, I mean, we all already knew their lives were different, but I think it was just to emphasize how different their lives really are in terms of what they value and what they focus on. Sophie is the lady's maid for Hyacinth and Francesca. No, Hyacinth and Eloise. And they love her. They find out that she's an avid reader. They know that she speaks a couple languages, and she's getting really close with Eloise, and everyone's really impressed with her. She tells when she first gets hired there, the Miss Wilson, who's the head servant, takes her to visit all the other people, takes her to the kitchen, and it's like bustling full of people. And they're like, "Oh, was your last place like this?" She's like, "No, it was just me." And they're like, oh my gosh. And it's very clear that she's a very hard worker. She kind of gets in where she fits in, but everyone really likes her. Ms. Bridgerton likes her. She's trying to get information about her because she's like, you saved my son's life, so I want to get to know you better. And she confesses to Lady Danbury that she has this pull to protect Sophie because she's like, I can tell she's running from something. And obviously, Sophie isn't going to be doesn't want to like put all her business out there. So she's very tight-lipped. And the story she's been feeding everybody is I learned how to read and write and learn these languages because one of the families I worked for before, they allowed me to sit in on lessons with their daughters. And obviously that's not the truth. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen when the truth comes out and how the truth comes out. Because I feel like she was old enough when her dad died that she should still have memories of her taking these classes and memories of her being treated like a daughter of nobility. And, but I think sometimes when you lie to yourself long enough, you start believing some of the lies that you tell, right? And I'm also curious about what her life was like before the stepmother came into the picture. We know her mom died, but we don't have all the details, right? So we don't know how old she was when her mom died. We don't know if her mom lived in the house with her father this entire time that they were together, were they married? Like, we don't know any of that really. So I'm very curious about the full scope and the full story of Sophie and her life. But while that is happening, the girls go off and have a nice, cute little dinner, Lady Danbury's, while Benedict goes and has drinks with Colin, with Mr. Mondridge, and with his brother-in-law John. And I like those scenes as well because obviously Benedict, going to the gentleman's club, going to, the brothel. It's like, okay, that's kind of what we expect of him. But I like those nice quiet moments where he's just kind of bonding with his brothers. And I love that all the people that marry into the Bridgerton family, they immediately are embraced by the other siblings and treated automatically like a brother or like a sister. I've always liked that. I thought it's just a really sweet thing that they do. There's no awkwardness. You never hear them say, I don't know if they ever really say brother-in-law, sister-in-law. I don't know when that term actually was even invented, but it's just really sweet. So it was a nice, quiet scene. But in that scene, he runs into his friend who he ran into at a gentleman's club who was telling him that I'm married, but I've fallen in love. And so the woman I fall in love with, she's agreed to be my mistress. And he's at this gentleman's club with the mistress. And Colin and the other men are like, well, that life does not suit me at all. And Benedict brought up the fact that Anthony at one point had a mistress. I was like, here's the difference though. Anthony didn't have a mistress in season one. However, Anthony was not married when he had a mistress. That is the big difference. It's one thing to just have a woman on the side that you're sleeping with, that you're taking care of because society dictates you can't marry her. That's one thing. If you're single, you can kind of do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. But if you are married and you have the same situation with a chick on the side, that's something completely different. But you can see Benedict's wheel starting to turn because Mondrian says something. He says that in this life, when you're part of the ton, you marry according to your class, but that doesn't always result in you falling in love the same way. You can't help who you fall in love with, but you marry the person that you're supposed to marry because it's like, well, that's how the rules are set up. I can't marry below my station. Everybody knows that. So this is just kind of what I have to do. Let me see what else. There were a couple things that happened. I thought the episode was actually pretty good. We have that relationship with Benedict. We have Sophie really getting along with the maid. She really likes Lady Bridgerton. Lady Bridgerton offers her the job full time. She says, yes, I will stay on. But she's also telling Benedict that I can't I can't work here when you're here. You're always here and you are a major, major distraction for me. And he's like, okay, I'll leave. He ends up leaving, but then he comes back because his mother, with the help of Alice Mondridge, feels like they found the woman that he's been looking for. Obviously, it's not her because we know it's Sophie, but he ends up meeting the woman, having tea with her, and Sophie comes in to serve them tea. And it turns into this awkward thing, and that's when she basically tells Benedict, I want to stay here. This is the family I've always dreamed of being a part of, but you are a distraction. You can't be here. So he ends up leaving to give her space because he doesn't want to make things difficult for her. So while that's happening on one end, we also have this very cute, awkward conversation with Violet Bridgerton. I said this in my last video. Violet Bridgerton, when she's nervous, is hilarious because she just like her words just kind of come out really fast. She's always looking in different directions. If she's talking to you and she's nervous for whatever reason, she's not looking you in the eye. She's like, oh, well, I suppose. And then I don't know. And just like answering her own questions. But essentially, she's asking her head servant, Ms. Wilson, she's like, I want to have a tea at night with a person. How do I arrange that? I.e., I'm trying to have a booty call. How do I make this happen? So basically, they concoct this plan. Well, they'll send all the kids to Francesca's house to have a family dinner. Lady Bridgerton will pretend to be sick, and Miss Wilson will dismiss all of the servants for the night so they can have the house to themselves. So that boom, we got the plan and it's all great. In the midst of this, she has Lady Bridgerton has a conversation with Lady Danbury, and Lady Danbury is basically telling her not the whole plan about the queen and her volunteering to find the queen's new lady in waiting, but essentially how she wants something for herself because like, do I deserve this? Like, I want something for myself. Is that selfish? And they're speaking to each other essentially, and speaking to each other meaning Lady Bridgerton is telling her what she's really telling herself. Like, you deserve to do something that's just for you. It is not selfish. You take care of everybody, and you have for a very long time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing something for you. And I loved that they were having this conversation as women because I feel like women have that conversation still today in 2026 where we have to kind of convince ourselves and convince our girlfriends that it's okay to do something for you. If you're a mom, if you're a wife, if you have a business, if whatever it is, you probably pour a lot of yourself into all these different things. And at the end of the day, you probably don't have anything for yourself. And so I know that I have those conversations constantly with my girlfriends, and we're constantly supporting each other and encouraging each other to, do something for you. Whether it's taking yourself to dinner, going on a vacation by yourself, buying yourself a new purse, whatever it is, you need to do that. So A, I like the fact that they're having this conversation as women. And B, I love the fact that even though Violet is also talking to herself, I love that her character as the white woman is telling the black woman, you deserve to take care of yourself. Because I'm actually just started reading this book. Um, and the title got me. The title is called Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. Because black women, and I'm not saying women don't put in work, like, don't get me wrong there, but black women just seem to, in my personal experience, kind of go above and beyond for everybody. Think back to slavery time, right? The black woman, whether she was in the house or she was in the field, she had to do her share of the work. She had to still take care of her own household, no matter what that house looked like. If she was a field slave, but even if that house was just four walls and a floor, she still had to take care of that home. That was her duty essentially. If she's in the house, she is in the big house. She is taking care of the cooking. She is cleaning. She's mending clothes. She's helping, the white women get ready. she is taking care of their babies and sometimes breastfeeding those babies from her own body. And then if you're out in the field, you're doing the same thing. You drop the baby, have the baby. You still got to take care of that baby and still get your work done. And so we kind of have that mindset of always having to give ourselves to all these people because that's our quote unquote job, that a lot of times we don't take the time to rest. And obviously, back in those days, there was no rest, right? You didn't have a vacation. You may have got a day off here and there, but it was very rare. So I was glad that Violet was the one that told Lady Danbury that she deserves this. She basically repeated the words that Miss Wilson had said to Lady Bridgerton earlier, was that life is meant to be lived. And it is. So what that conversation leads to is Lady Danbury taking Alice Mondrish to the palace to meet the Queen. And in that conversation, Alice realizes that Lady Danbury has thrust her into this role of being the Queen's new lady in waiting, and the Queen approves. Now, she explained why she didn't like prep Alice beforehand, but I'm like, that's still kind of effed up. Nobody wants to be thrust into that. Like, like, give me a heads up. I don't like surprises already right now. I'm sure Alice was like, what is really going on? But it's interesting. They have this conversation afterwards, and Lady Danbury is basically telling her this is an amazing opportunity. Like, you get to represent your country, you get to serve your queen, and you get to be the friend of the queen. She's like, she needs someone like you. She's like, the way that you're arguing with me right now, she needs someone like that. Because yes, you will respect her as a queen. You will, be her friend, but you'll also call her on her stuff. Because even though she's a queen, sometimes she does not need to be treated like a queen. She needs to be treated like she's your friend. And you can tell with Alice's demeanor, she keeps making, I don't say excuse, she keeps saying like, I don't want this, I didn't dream of this. And what I realized is that she has severe imposter syndrome. Because if you've been watching the show, Alice and her husband at first were average people. I'll say average instead of poor. They weren't necessarily poor, but they weren't part of the ton. They were average people. He was a boxer, she was a homemaker. Then they end up owning a bar for a little bit. And then I think I said this already in the past video. One of her like old relatives passed away, and the inheritance goes to the boy, the oldest boy. The oldest boy happened to be her son, who's going to be the future Baron of Kent. And so that thrust her now into the ton. Now she is one of these people. And I think she's still figuring out her way, figuring out where she fits in, making sure she goes to the ball, she shows up, she's cordial, she doesn't like break any of the rules. And I feel like even though I complain, and I'm still going to complain because I feel like they're kind of reaching a little bit, really trying to make us care about them. And I'm not saying they're terrible people, but it's like, still don't really understand why you guys have been here all this time. But I do like the fact that this is the first time we've really experienced Alice having her own storyline. Everything for the most part has been surrounding her husband. So kind of seeing her thrust into her own storyline and really seeing more of her personality, it is refreshing a little bit, but I still think it's a stretch. Like I don't think they're really adding much to the Bridgerton multiverse, but what do I know? I'm not Shonda, and I'm not on that writing team. Either way, it looks like she's going to be the Queen's new lady in waiting. So if we have season 5 and Lady Danbury is off like visiting her home country, and we have Alice there, I am very curious to see what that dynamic is going to be. No one can replace Lady Danbury, obviously, because she's just that girl. But it would be interesting to see what that new dynamic looks like. So, okay, I took some notes, but we're gonna kind of go through what happened, and then I'll go through my notes because I'm like, huh. So Francesca and John, okay, they have this moment where last episode, Francesca was asking Penelope and her mom what the pinnacle is, which essentially is the orgasm. In fact, she hasn't had one. And I was complaining because I'm like, that's your husband, and he, I'm sure, knows you haven't had an orgasm, unless Francesca is his first. I don't know. That's never been said, but the fact that you don't know she hasn't had an orgasm is like, that's kind of weird. There's a scene where they are having sex with each other, and he's on top of her, and then she like yells, and she's like, John, John. And he rolls over and he looks at her. He's like, you don't have to perform for me. Like, it's not necessary. And I'm like, you don't, who taught you to fake an orgasm? Because you didn't know what the pinnacle was like a couple of days ago. So who told you that that was the response to fake an orgasm and to scream his name like that? I just thought that was interesting because I feel like that's not a natural thing to do. I feel like someone told you that, hey, men like to feel good. Men like to feel like they're doing something. So make sure you make noise. Like, I feel like that had to been taught to you. So who the heck had that conversation with you? I thought that was a very interesting scene. But basically, he told her, whether you reach the pinnacle or not, whether we have kids or not, you and I are enough. Like, I love you. And when we're intimate, it's not because I'm trying to get you pregnant, it's because I feel like I'm getting closer to you in body and heart and mind. He was saying all the right things. And it's clear that he really loves his wife. And I think it's very clear that she loves and respects him too. Obviously, his cousin is a little bit of a wild card in this scenario because they have this. They have the dinner with their siblings, and then his cousin Michaela comes from Scotland. And Michaela seems like she's very no nonsense. She doesn't seem mean, but she seems like she just has no cut cards. And Francesca's whole demeanor changes as soon as Michaela enters the picture. Now, in the books, Michaela is Michael, a man. So it's setting it up to make it seem like Francesca and Michaela are going to have some kind of lesbian something going on. I don't know if that's really the direction they're going in. I'm hoping we'll get more into that the rest of season four. I do kind of wish that Francesca was able to have a season to herself instead of sharing it, but neither here nor there. But while they're at this dinner, Lady Bridgerton, let me tell you, this woman got her thighs out. She got the cleavage pushed up. She is like showing the body, right? And she's draped over her, like her couch or something in front of her bed when she gets a knock at the door. It's late, candles are lit. It is Lord Marcus Anderson. He comes in and he's like, oh, he was like, your maid told me that we were serving tea up here. He was like, this is something new. And he was like, so what does this mean? She's like, I am the tea you will be having. When I tell you that line has and that scene has been reposted on TikTok so many times because the buildup of Lady Bridgerton finally getting with this dude has been so great. People have been rooting for her because again, taking away the fact that this is a fictitious show, as a mother, moms do everything for their kids, especially a mom like her who's mother of 8 children and her husband has been gone for 15, 16 years. Yes, Anthony's the head of the household from a paternal standpoint, but the mama really runs everything. She's like planning these weddings. She's talking to people about the birds and the bees. She's just making sure her kids are happy and healthy and all that stuff. And she has locked all that stuff down, all her feminine wiles. She's locked it down for like 16 years after her husband died and probably didn't even dawn on her that I would find somebody. She started feeling those urges. And then Lord Marcus enters her life, and she's like, wait a minute, he's fine. And I felt a little tingly in my ghibli. And so it was just a really great, sweet moment of them finally getting together and having some butt naked sex. And I was like, oh, yes, I was in here hooting and hollering, had my arms. I was like, yes, yes. I was so excited for her. Like, she was like a girlfriend of mine. Very happy for her. So while that is going on, Benedict is at his home. He's drawing and he realizes he's not drawing a picture of the lady in silver anymore, which is what he's been doing all this time. Now he's drawing specifically a picture of Sophie because he can't get her out of his mind. So he goes to the house to see Sophie. And mind you, all the servants have been dismissed. She's about to go on the town to a tavern or something with the other servants. Then she forgets, oh, I forgot my coin purse. She goes back inside. They literally bump into each other on the stairs and just stare at each other. And then just wild, passionate kissing because they literally cannot stay away from each other. Passion is there, the sexual tension is there. So he got my girl up against the wall. He, decides to tell her to come here, get my drift. And in the midst of all this, he's saying, I can't stay away from him, I'm just drawn to you. He says, you deserve so much more than what you have right now. So his answer to her deserving more is to ask her to be his mistress. Now, again, on TikTok, there have been so many videos of people reacting to his line, and they're like, "Oh, Benedict, no, I can't believe it." Da, da, da." But again, in that day and age, what choice did he have, right? He and his family have been brought up to fully respect and adhere to the rules of the ton. So in his mind, there literally is no other option. He could either leave her alone completely and never see her again or talk to her, or she could be his mistress. Like he knows that what else can I do? She can't be a wife, can't like officially court her. So he's just figuring out not even figuring out. He's basically taking the route that affords him the opportunity to be with this woman that he cannot stop thinking about. He's not gonna say the word love yet, but he can't stop thinking about her. He's drawn to her. What else can he really do? So I wasn't necessarily mad, but obviously I was mad at the fact that he thought that equated to her getting what she deserves. And it's like it's one thing to ask me to be your mistress because, we don't have a choice. But it's another thing to make it seem like you're doing me a favor by asking me to be your mistress. That is where I was like, okay, now no. And she never answers him because the servants come back looking for her. She leaves. and he's just kind of stuck because she never gives him an answer. But she definitely looks at him like she's kind of dumbfounded, I think. So then they leave, and then we cut to the house next door. There's been this all this chatter about somebody's moving in next door. We don't know who they are. All we know is we've seen a lady, but we haven't seen a man. I don't know who it is. Of course, it turns out to be her stepmother and her stepsister's buying the house directly next door to the Bridgertons. And who is their new maid? It is the maid who was with the Featheringtons. So that's how the episode ends. That's how part one ends, right? So here are some notes that I have. I said that Francesca trying to be seductive is very cute because again, she clearly loves and respects her husband a lot, and she's trying to be more assertive and trying to, initiate kissing more, initiate touching more. So I think that's really cute. Let's see. Uh, do. Lady Bridgerton told Lady Danbury, "You have earned your happiness." I really like that line because absolutely, yes, ma'am, you have. And John liked Francesca being more assertive. He admitted that he's been holding back because he's trying to match her pacing. Now, that's commendable, but I don't, it's just really interesting, right? Like, I talked before about how the women in the ton do not talk to each other about this stuff. Mothers and older sisters do not talk to the daughters or younger sisters about sex, about intimacy, about, orgasms, about touching, about any of that stuff. It's not a conversation they have. And even when Francesca was talking to Penelope about the pinnacle, Penelope asked her, "Have you talked to John?" She's like, "No, I can't talk to my husband about this." And that's the problem. She's not able to talk to her husband about it. It doesn't seem like John's been opening up to her either if he's holding back. So it's like, are men taught the same way that my assumption is that men are taught to get their pleasure. They're not taught to pleasure a woman. They're not taught to have her pleasure in mind. That's my assumption. I could be completely wrong, and maybe I am. Also, don't know no men who were born in that time frame, so who knows? But I just thought it was weird that he's not really talking to her either about stuff. Now, what does she know that the pinnacle was? But I digress. Oh, I loved that before Lord Marcus came over, there's a scene where Violet has her hair down. If you notice in Bridgerton, the hair is always up. The only time you have your hair down, if you are a married woman, you can have your hair down occasionally. But for the most part, all women have their hair like pinned up. She had her hair down and she took a robe and she's looking at herself naked because she's like, "I've had 8 babies. It's been so long." And I like that thing. I'm a strong proponent of being naked. I try to talk to my girlfriends all the time about being naked in your own space because two of them live by themselves. And I'm like, if y'all don't just walk around naked all day, if I had that choice, if I didn't have 2 babies that live with me, I'd be naked all the time. Like it's just comforting and it's freeing. So I love the fact that she took the time to examine herself from all angles. It's like, yes, as you should. 8 babies where? Like you still look freaking fine as I don't know what. And I'm glad that I can see in her eyes that she was like, "Oh, good." It's like good for you, Violet. You absolutely do. So I like that scene. About the imposter syndrome. I love that we're hearing more from Hyacinth because at at Francesca's dinner, there's a scene or conversation rather with Hyacinth and Eloise. This is the third time that somebody has told Eloise who she really is. At the end of season two, there's a big blowout between Eloise and Penelope because Eloise finds out that she is Lady Whistledown. But Penelope says something like, "You're just mad because you're all talk. I actually do something. I have a career. You talk all the time about how we need to change this and women should be this and blah, blah, blah. You don't ever do anything, right?" That's the first time. In the middle of season three, she had a little tiff with Cressida Kappa, where Cressida told her, like, need to make up your mind if you're friends with Penelope or not, because while you're saying all the stuff about her, you really need to look in the mirror because really you're not that hot. You're not that hot yourself, essentially, something like that. And then at the dinner, Hyacinth, like, because Eloise says a bunch of snarky things to Hyacinth when it comes to Hyacinth, practicing how to be a young lady. So she's taking the dance classes and she's reading the books and she's doing seating charts. She's doing all the stuff, but she's very excited to be a part of society, excited to go to the balls, all the stuff that Eloise hates. And so she kind of makes fun of the stuff that Hyacinth is doing. And Hyacinth basically told her, she said, at first I thought that you cared about everybody but me. But now I'm starting to think you only care about yourself. And it was just very slight, but she said it and then she walked away and Eloise's face looked crestfallen. I'm like, how many people have to tell you about yourself before you actually get the picture? Like, have you really grown at all since season one? And I don't know if she has. She's very judgmental about these women who choose this life. Yes, you may not want that life, and that's fine. None of the women have judged you for not wanting to be courted, for not wanting to go to the balls, for not wanting to, dance with the men. No one has made fun of you for that. But you say stuff under your breath all the time when the people in your life want that life. There's nothing wrong with that. And hoping for her season, I feel like it's going to take until we get to her season for her to actually wisen up and start thinking about life a little differently. I don't know when her season's going to come, but I think everyone's kind of waiting to see what happens with her. So hopefully it comes sooner rather than later. And oh yeah, mistress is essentially equal to a concubine. I feel like that's the way they view it because they really downplay, not downplay, they really bash the idea of a mistress. A mistress doesn't belong on our streets, and mistress, we can't consort with those kind of people, and blah blah blah. And it's like essentially, a mistress is someone who is unmarried who is having sex steadily with a man. In this day and age, that would just be her boyfriend. But in that day and age, a woman is a virgin until she gets married. If you are not a virgin when you get married, then you're the mistress, you're a trollop. I don't know if they said trollop back in the day, but trollop, they should bring trollop back. I think that's such a fantastic insult for a loose woman. But yeah, that's the best I put. Mistress is equal to concubine. And when he asked her to be the mistress, Sophie's not the type of person I don't think that's gonna like snap at you or slap a guy, but she definitely should have said something. I don't think she should have just left quiet. She should have opened him up and said something. So that's what's happened so far in part one. I'm curious to, not curious, but I guess I'm waiting for that first scene where Araminta, her stepmother, and the stepsisters, when they first encounter Sophie like out and about somewhere, I'm very curious about that blow up. I think it's going to be incredibly epic because Araminta does not mince words. She's very mean and nasty. So I want to see where that goes. I want to see if her kids, if Violet's kids will find out about Lord Marcus. Because whenever she talks to Lord Marcus or, like he like escorts her somewhere, the kids are never around. So I don't think they see stuff. And the thing is, the only person who peeped something a little bit was in season 3 when Anthony, they were at Penelope and Colin's wedding. Anthony saw her talking to him and was like, well, who's that guy? I've never seen him before because he's the oldest brother. And I feel like no one else is going to be that observant. They're kind of all in their own worlds and not really thinking about their mother at all. They definitely think about their mother as a sexual being and as a woman. They're only thinking of her as a mom, right? So I want to see if they're going to explore that a little bit more because she told Lord Marcus, I want to be discreet with this. We can't tell anybody. I wonder if he's going to be content with that, if he's going to demand that she goes public with it, if the kids are going to find out. I want to see where that goes. So we'll see what happens part 2. We have a little less than a month, but when it drops, I watch the episodes. I will take my notes like I did this time, and I will give you guys a recap. But put in the comments what you hope to see in part 2. What did you guys think about part 1? Are you gonna go back and rewatch it all over again? Are you gonna go back and rewatch it from season 1 to kind of remind yourself of all these storylines? Are you guys enjoying it? Are you really liking Bridgerton this season? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.